Jacob knew the moment he let go of the money that he'd crossed a line he couldn't uncross. The crumpled bill sat in his palm for a second too long. $18 in total, the last of it, before he pressed them into the stranger's shaking hands. It was insane. Completely, undeniably insane. An hour earlier, he'd been fired. Not laid off. Not let go. Fired. Escorted out of the building like a criminal after being framed for something he didn't do. Marcus's smug smile still burned behind his eyes. Tina's refusal to meet his gaze. His supervisor sliding the termination papers across the desk with a tone that said the decision had already been made. We have witnesses who saw you take the equipment, Jacob. Multiple witnesses. Witnesses who lied. Jacob had never stolen so much as a paperclip in his life. But truth didn't matter when two people were willing to fabricate a story that fit the narrative management wanted. He hadn't even been allowed to defend himself properly. Just signatures, warnings about company policy, and a security guard waiting politely but firmly by the door. Now here he was, standing at a bus stop under a flickering streetlight, jobless, exhausted, and staring at the woman beside him as she counted loose coins and wrinkled bills again and again, as if the total might change if she tried hard enough. Her hand shook violently. Jacob recognized that look, the tightness around the mouth, the hollow panic in the eyes. He'd seen it in the mirror too many times over the last 3 years. Ever since Sarah died. Ever since it became just him and Grace against the world. "I'm sorry," the woman said quietly, her voice cracking. "I hate to ask, but I'm sure for the bus fare." She tried to smile, but tears slipped free anyway, tracing clean lines down her cheeks. Jacob looked at his wallet. $18. That money meant dinner. Breakfast. Maybe enough to stretch until he could find day labor or construction work paid in cash. It meant Grace wouldn't ask why her stomach hurt when she went to bed. It meant he wouldn't have to lie. If he gave it away, he'd walk 4 miles home in the dark. Grace would already be asleep, waiting for a tomorrow he couldn't guarantee. But the woman beside him was breaking apart right in front of him. Jacob exhaled slowly and held out the money. "Here," he said. "Take it." She stared at the bills like they were unreal. I can't. That's too much. I just need—" "Please," Jacob said, pressing them into her hand before she could refuse again. "Just take it." Her hands trembled as she closed her fingers around the money. "Thank you," she whispered, voice thick with emotion. "Thank you so much. I don't even know what to say." "It's okay," Jacob said, even though it wasn't. Even though he had no idea how tomorrow was supposed to work. "I'm Jacob." "Charlotte," she replied, wiping her face. "I'm not usual. Tonight's just been—" She shook her head, unable to finish. "I get it," Jacob said quietly. "Bad nights happen." The bus pulled up with a hiss of brakes. Charlotte stepped back, clutching the money like a lifeline. "I'll pay you back," she said earnestly. "I don't know how yet, but I promise." Jacob nodded without answering. People always said things like that. They rarely meant it. The bus doors closed, and the vehicle disappeared down the street, leaving Jacob alone beneath the broken light. For miles. Empty stomach. No plan. He started walking. By the time Jacob reached his apartment, his legs ached and his feet burned. Grace was already asleep. Mrs. Kate from next door had fed her dinner, mac and cheese, and stayed late without charging extra. She was good like that. One of the few good things left in his life. Jacob stood in the doorway of Grace's room, watching her breathe. She had Sarah's nose. Sarah's way of curling on her side, with one hand tucked beneath her cheek. "I'm sorry, baby," he whispered. "I'm so sorry." He didn't sleep that night. He sat at the kitchen table staring at unpaid bills, sipping watered-down coffee, calculating impossible numbers. Construction work. Day labor. Anything. At exactly 8 the next morning, someone knocked. Jacob opened the door, and his heart nearly stopped. 5 black SUVs lined the street. Not old ones. Not rentals. Immaculate, glossy vehicles with tinted windows and chrome trim that caught the morning sun. Men and women in tailored suits stood beside them, talking quietly into headsets, and walking toward him, confident, composed, dressed like she owned half the city, was Charlotte. The woman from the bus stop. Only now, she looked like someone who could buy his entire neighborhood without blinking. "Hello, Jacob," she said calmly. His mouth refused to work. "My security team," she added lightly, gesturing behind her. "My assistant. My attorney." Grace's voice drifted from the kitchen. "Daddy? Who is it? Can we come in?" Charlotte asked gently. "I promised I'd pay you back." Jacob stepped aside, still stunned. Grace peeked around the corner, eyes widening at the sight of the strangers. "Hi," Charlotte said, kneeling down. "I'm Charlotte, a friend of your dad's." "You're pretty," Grace said seriously. "Do you like soccer?" Charlotte smiled. "I love soccer." After Grace returned to breakfast, Charlotte's expression softened. "Last night I was robbed," she said quietly. "My car, my phone, everything." She straightened. "I own Lancaster and Associates, a marketing firm, 50 employees, 15 million in annual revenue." Jacob blinked. "Someone close to me set it up," Charlotte continued. "They wanted me vulnerable. And you," she met his eyes, "you gave me everything you had." She paused. "Why?" Jacob sank onto the couch. "Because you needed it." Charlotte nodded slowly. "I need someone I can trust," she said. "Someone with integrity." She leaned forward. "Come work for me." Jacob stared. "You're offering me a job?" "A real one," she said. "And a second chance." Jacob didn't answer right away. The offer sat between them like something fragile and unreal. A job, a real one, benefits, stability. The kind of word that felt dangerous to believe in after so long without it. "I don't have the qualifications," he said finally. "I've worked factory floors most of my life." Charlotte smiled faintly. "I'm not hiring your resume. I'm hiring your character." She introduced him to her CFO, Richard Torres, a sharp-eyed man with salt and pepper hair who looked like he missed nothing. Richard was skeptical at first, openly so, but Charlotte shut it down with a single look. "He's someone I trust," she said. "That's enough." Over the next few hours, Jacob learned what had really happened. Charlotte's assistant, Derek Anderson, had insisted she use his car the night her own was in the shop. After a late client dinner, the car vanished. Phone, wallet, keys, everything gone. Derek had been helpful to a fault, reporting the theft immediately, offering his apartment, managing the fallout. Too helpful. Jacob listened, quiet and focused. He'd lived betrayal. He knew the smell of it. He asked questions no one else had thought to ask. Timelines. Small inconsistencies. Expense reports that didn't quite line up. Patterns hidden beneath legitimate-looking numbers. By the end of the week, he'd found it. Derek had been skimming money for nearly 2 years. Small amounts at first, buried deep, then larger ones. Nearly $80,000 gone in the last 6 months alone. He needed the robbery, Jacob said, spreading the evidence across Charlotte's desk. Auditors were coming. This bought him time. Charlotte stared at the papers, jaw tight. "And instead, I ran into you." The police arrested Derek 2 days later. He was planning to leave the country that weekend. When they led him away in handcuffs, his eyes burned with hatred. "You got lucky," he sneered at Charlotte. "That nobody saved you." "No," Charlotte replied calmly. "I chose wisely." After that, things changed. The office felt lighter. Jacob wasn't the outsider anymore. People asked his opinion, invited him to lunch. Richard called him a natural. For the first time since Sarah died, Jacob felt like himself again. And somewhere along the way, Charlotte became more than his boss. She came to Grace's soccer games, sat on metal bleachers, and cheered louder than anyone, helped Grace with homework, brought groceries to their apartment like it was nothing, drank bad coffee at their tiny kitchen table on Sunday mornings. Grace started drawing pictures of 3 people again. Jacob noticed, and it terrified him, because he was falling in love, deeply, hopelessly, and he didn't know if Charlotte felt the same, or if he was just a good deed that had gone too far. He couldn't risk the job, couldn't risk Grace's heart. The breaking point came with the drawing. "My family," Grace had written in crooked letters above 3 smiling figures holding hands under a rainbow. That night, Jacob sat alone in the dark, staring at the picture. He couldn't let this continue. Not without honesty. Not without truth. Saturday came bright and warm. Grace's big game. Charlotte arrived early with a handmade sign bearing Grace's jersey number. Grace screamed with joy. Charlotte laughed, radiant and relaxed, nothing like the CEO who commanded boardrooms. They sat together on the bleachers. Grace scored in the second half. A perfect shot. Charlotte grabbed Jacob's arm, cheering like it was her own victory. And Jacob knew he couldn't keep this inside anymore. After the game, he sent Grace to celebrate with her team. "I need to tell you something," he said, voice shaking. "Please let me finish." Charlotte nodded, concern flickering across her face. "I'm in love with you," Jacob said. "I know it's inappropriate. I know you saved my life and you're my boss. But I can't pretend anymore. If this costs me everything, I'll accept that. I just couldn't lie to you." Silence. Then Charlotte stepped closer. "I've been waiting 2 months for you to say that." Jacob blinked. "What?" "I love you," she said, laughing through tears. "I've loved you since the bus stop. Since you treated me like a human being when I had nothing." She kissed him right there on the bleachers, surrounded by half the soccer parents. Grace stared at them, stunned. "Does this mean Charlotte is my new mom?" Charlotte laughed and pulled her into a hug. "Let's start with girlfriend." Ice cream followed, then many more Saturdays. 1 month later, Jacob proposed in the park. No ring, just truth. "Will you marry us?" he asked. "Yes," Charlotte said through tears. "Both of you." Their wedding was small. Grace was a flower girl, serious and proud. When Charlotte walked toward Jacob, he thought of the bus stop, of $18, of a choice made when he had nothing left. He'd thought he was giving away everything. But really, he'd been planting the seed of a life. 6 months later, they walked through the same park together. Grace ran ahead, laughing, chasing butterflies. Pizza for dinner. Hands held. A normal family. Nothing special. Everything special. Because sometimes the smallest acts of kindness change everything. Sometimes giving your last dollar gives you a future. And sometimes, when you think the story is over, that's when it's just beginning.